The ZiiGaat Cincotres. Let's talk about it. Now, this is a loaner set that I've had on my desk for almost a month, and I do need to finally finish the review on this and return this to the owner. I do want to say I sincerely appreciate anyone who loans me sets. It's a great opportunity, and one of the awesome things about this hobby is to experience different IEMs. So let's go ahead and start talking about the build quality of this IEM. And those who have seen my Das Cinco video, which dropped a little bit earlier, there's a lot of similarities between these two sets. The build and comfort of this IEM is good. I think it's a little bit bigger than the Magic 1, but it's overall a nice IEM. I like its faceplate. I don't think it's anything too special. It is a little bit chunkier than the Magic 1. It doesn't have that nice little like flap lip at the end. You'll notice it's a little bit wider than the Magic 1, but overall it's just a nice little set. I like it, and it fits well in my ear. It has a nice flat 2-pin cable, and it fits ear tips really well. It's an overall solid IEM. It's somewhat translucent if you kind of look at it at the right light, which is pretty cool. You can kind of see the internals if you get the right light to it, so it's nice. Now, the cable is nice. It is nothing too fancy or to write home about. I mean, I think it's a fine cable. It feels good in hands. It's a flat 2-pin connector, which I think is one of the best kind. It looks and feels good in hand, and it's easy to swap. I mean, what more can you ask? The case is also really nice. It feels good in hand. You can buy one for about $10. So it's, it's a ZiiGaat case. It's a nice little case. Buy one if you want to check it out. It's good. Okay, the ZiiGaat Cincotres. Here's its listing. I wanted to kind of show something with you. It's called Professional Studio Tuned IEM. Right? If we look at the Das Cinco, they call it the Audiophile tuning right here. So it's really interesting to release two IEMs that are so similar. Exact same packaging, exact same cable, exact same case. I mean, the faceplate you can see is a little different on the Das Cinco versus the Cincotres, like a little bit, tiny bit different of a design, but that's it. So part of this, I want to kind of talk about the difference between the two. Even for me, as someone who is more in depth into audio, I think these tunings can mean completely different things to different people. One can mean more neutral. Maybe you're looking for something neutral, and maybe the Das Cinco means something with a little bit more elevated bass shelf and a little bit more elevated 4 to 6K. I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing, but I wanted to point that out. This came out not too long ago, and that's all we really had to know about the differences between these two tunings. Okay, the ZiiGaat Cincotres. Let's look at it. This is a handsome graph. It has a lot of good things going on for it. It's not perfect. There's some wonkiness all around in a few different spots, but overall it does have a really nice profile. So let's kind of talk about some of its comparisons and kind of where it rates, and let's get into it. The first one, the Das Cinco. Now, the Das Cinco, I mean, again, the Cincotres is the studio tuned, while the Cincotres is the audiophile tuned, so they have different qualities and characteristics to them. The Das Cinco has a nice, fuller, richer bass, but it's treble extension, and it does kind of have this U shape with a lot of 5 to 6K energy and a lot of 8K energy. I found that the problem is this being flat, it didn't really work for me, and the Cincotres to me is the better IEM. Let's look at a few others. The Nuo. Now, the Nuo, to me, it has a lot more flat mids, which I really like. But again, it has a lot of energy through here, and it's just driver quality. It's just not as good. It's a solid little budget set, but it sounds like a budget set. And, I mean, maybe you're a cheap date. Maybe you like something that's not super expensive and you would love something like the Nuo. And again, if you're new to the hobby, I would recommend trying something cheap before you go expensive. But for me, I don't know. I just didn't really like the Nuo. It didn't really work for me despite its FR being reasonable. The next one I want to look at and kind of compare the Jupiter. To me, the Jupiter is just one of the best IEMs, one of my favorites. It has this fantastic bass shelf. It has nice, smooth mids. The Cincotres can come across a little bit bright sometimes. Like if you get this spike where you want it, like if you're really trying to get the 3K energy where you want it, it can come across a little bit too much. It does have kind of a lot of this, like a huge spike right around here, and it can come across bright, whereas the Jupiter never does. The Jupiter is just buttery smooth with nice, rich, full textured bass. Another one to compare from the same company, since I've done a lot of these, is the Sino. No, I didn't like the Sino. The Sino to me is just basically a flat line. Like everything here is really, really flat, and it comes across really dull and really boring. I mean, for me, the Sino came across sibilant on many tracks, and I had some major issues with the Sino. But again, our mileage may vary. You might like the Sino. I've heard of people liking it, but for what I like, it just didn't have enough of anything to really sound good to me. Okay, now the comparison a lot of people are looking at. Now, part of the reason I got interested in the Cincotres was because it graphs very similarly to the Da Vinci. And I like the Cincotres, and I think it could work for a lot of people. Like if you found a Cincotres on the market for maybe $200, I think it would be really a smart bargain. And we look at this, and to me, the Da Vinci just has that better bass shelf. Although it does suffer from a little bit too much mid bass for some people. Like to me, I wish it had a little bit more sub bass and a little bit less mid bass. But if you look at the Da Vinci, I mean, it follows my target almost perfectly. The Cincotres does a good job, but it does lack a little bit of energy up through 5 to 6K. It does have a huge amount of energy up through here. It's not bad. It's very enjoyable. But to me, the Cincotres, it just has just a few minor things to make it from being like a nearly perfect IEM, despite it being a very good IEM. All right, another one I want to compare it to is the Cadenza 4. I think the Cadenza 4 has a little bit better overall tonality than the Cincotres. I think the Cincotres is a good IEM, and I think the Cadenza 4 is also something really good. I like the build quality of the Cincotres better than the Cadenza 4. It fits better. I think it has a better overall packaging, but that's kind of debatable. I mean, look at them both. Look at pictures of them both online. Take a look at the packaging of both of these and see which one you might like better. But they're both right around that same price. They're both good sets. Either one might work for you depending on what you're looking for. Okay, if we look at something like the Truth Ear Nova, I think you're going to get more air and detail from something like the Cincotres, and I think overall its qualities to me sound a little bit better on the Cincotres than the Nova. I do think the Nova is a good set. The Nova has really strong bass. They both have that nice solid upper mids. The Nova has a nice dip. The Nova is a really nice set, and I think if you have the Nova, I think going for something like the Cincotres doesn't really make sense. I mean, look at them. They're so similar. I think they both have a lot of similar issues in the upper air, and that's at least something to note for me. One thing I did want to note is that, like, the Heisinger Mega 5 EST is something that a lot of people are really pushing towards. If you find a good deal on the ZiiGaat Cincotres, it really might work for you. There's a lot of similarities with these two. They both kind of have about the same bass shelf. Like maybe if you try the Da Vinci and you're like, man, the Da Vinci's too much bass, and you don't want to go for the Mega 5 EST because of the price and the unavailability at your certain store, the Cincotres could be really good. They have really similar upper mids. They have kind of a similar bass shelf. I do think the Mega 5 EST is a lot better. It is a lot more neutral, and it is a nice set, but it's also like $600. It's really kind of an expensive set. And my guess is there's going to be a lot more sets based on the Mega 5 and the hype of the Mega 5 EST that'll be coming out more for even cheaper. Another thing to look at, I mean, even something like the Truth Air Hexa. I think the Hexa, I mean, the FR of these aren't the same. I think the Cincotres is more enjoyable. I think it's a little bit more fun. But the Hexa has a lot of good things going on. It's upper air and extension. It should be a benchmark for a lot of you guys. If you haven't tried the Hexa, go for it. Personally, I like the fit and comfort, cable, build quality, kind of the experience of the Cincotres and the overall package of the Cincotres better. But the Hexa and the Cincotres, I mean, look at that, dude. From here, like all the way in, they kind of compete really well. And in some ways, the Hexa has the better curve. Just things to think about. Just things to note. Sometimes you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a legendary set. That's also really good. Okay, the ZiiGaat Cincotres ranking. I like it. Solid A, solid 1 star. I like the tuning. I don't really like the bass that much, but for me, the mids are so nice and so lovely that it all makes sense. I like listening to it. And I don't like listening to every single set that comes across my desk. It's one of those sets that I love. I think it's a fantastic set, and I have really no problems with it. Like, it does a lot of things well. Music sounds good. It doesn't have this thumpy, strong bass, but it has a good sense of air, a good sense of imaging. It's just an overall really nice tuning and a nice build IEM that I wouldn't fault you at all if you decided to buy it. I think it's by far the better of the two ZiiGaat twins, but that's just my take on it. I think it is something that's really impressive, and I think, you know, it gives you a lot of great tuning things that I really enjoy. I could easily find myself daily driving the Cincotres, and I can easily recommend it to you guys. So to conclude, I think this is a fine IEM. I think it looks really good. I think it sits well in ear. And overall, I think it's a sonic win for most people. I like it. I think it's good. It does something special and unique, and it has a unique tuning. It fixes some of the problems I have with some other IEMs, but it also has its own unique problems as well. It's not the single most resolute IEM. It can come across a little bit bright at times, but overall, it has a nice frequency response. And for people that find the DaVinci too lean or the High Senior Mega 5 EST too expensive or are looking for that upgrade to the Hexa, could be a great IEM for you. And I think I really like this set, and I think it is a little bit better than the Das Cinco. But again, with any IEM above $200, you really should demo them. And I encourage you guys that are getting too invested in this hobby, take a minute and really try to trade some sets with people. And being able to listen to this set without having to purchase is a delight. Being able to share sets with friends, that's what this hobby's about. So I encourage you guys to take a look at this set if you can, and this tuning sounds enjoyable to you because it's fully enjoyable. Thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below. You're still here. It's over. Go home. Go watch another IEM video. It's done. That's the entire video. What more do you want?